We are talking today about positioning, really, when it comes down to it. And the reason that I want to talk about it is because I've been having a lot of conversations about positioning in this particular way lately. Since we like at Tutorial Tuesdays to share things that we're working on, not just like rando templates and stuff, not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, I wanted to share this with you. Ta-da. Let's start this off with a question. In your audience, who are most against you, but in need of you? Who would identify themselves as your enemy, but they actually need you? Shockingly, this happens in markets a lot. Or who is most unloved and in need of you? Okay, so this is not the only way to come up with taglines, branding, or positioning statements. This is one way in. So oftentimes it can be difficult to understand. Yes, Jacinta said literally everybody looking for wordsmiths. It can be difficult, though, to know how to position yourself or position your clients. And there are lots of ways. April Dunford teaches on this a lot. So if you're like interested in positioning, check out more from April Dunford. But we're going to talk a little bit about this one today because we have a couple examples of it today. Now, an insight, of course, is that, as a lot of us do know, but sometimes forget, especially when it comes to positioning, everyone wants to believe in the brands that they buy from. Okay, so if that's true, how can that help us? Because we just said there are people who are against you or unloved, and they are inside of your market. What can you do with those people if they're a big opportunity in particular inside of your market, or even if you're coming up with something to say to them, they're a small part of your market, but you're landing them on a page or you're writing an email that's just for them. This will help to get you to a place of understanding basically what I call your way into the conversation, your way in with them. We want to create a brand or a tagline for those people, the ones who think they're against you, but they actually need you, or the ones who are unloved, but they actually need you. And importantly, that's an or. It's not an and. Both of those things do not have to be true. However, if they were both true, probably extra powerful now that I say that. Okay, so we're talking about taglines and positioning in order to get to a place of building your quote unquote tribe. We don't talk about tribe building that much anymore because it's been like 7 years, I think, since Seth Godin published anything about tribes. However, it's still a big part of actually growing your business. So, oh, hi, welcome, Anas. Awesome, first time. Little heart on the end of it. Love that little heart. So we want to make your voice their voice. And this is often one of my challenges or problems with people who lay voice on really thick, is it's often the writer trying to sound like something, when in fact we have this huge opportunity in positioning, in branding, in brand voice, in the work that we do of helping people see themselves in not just the copy that we write, where they see themselves in the words we use, but actually in our brand overall. So when you're coming up with brand voice, it's important to think about how you can make your voice their voice. The more you make your voice their voice, the more likely you are to actually find a way into a conversation with them. And that doesn't mean pandering. That means actually thinking through how you can be the voice of X group of people. People want to believe in something, right? They want to believe in the brands that they buy from. How can you be the voice of X group of people? So when it comes to this against us but in need of us group, and I didn't check the animation on this. Oh, I hope my animation works. Here's an example of what one way into this. So it works. Get Prime, they've built, I've talked about this inside 10x Web Copy. I talked about Get Prime. I also talked about this example at a few different conferences, one of them in London. So if you were at that London conference, hi, and this will be familiar to you a little bit. So Get Prime is the company that built a platform. They're now called Flow by Pluralsight. But they built a platform designed to help the best engineers get the recognition that they deserve in large organizations. Cool. I'm an engineer. I'm good at my job. I feel under-recognized in my job, and I have no real way to speak up and say, hey, look, I'm super dope. I'm doing all this great stuff. I'm a great team member. But if I raise my hand and say, look at how good I am, people are going to think like, what's wrong with that person? So they had this problem that Git Prime was solving for. Git Prime built this to help engineers. Git Prime was built by an engineer who was going through this and thought, I can solve this problem. But then when it went out into market, engineers pushed back because at its core, Git Prime was about measuring the engineer. The engineers needed this solution, but they were against this solution. So what do you do there? Do you ignore it? Do you say, well, forget it, because the person who buys the product isn't an engineer. The person who buys it is the CTO or the product lead or someone higher up in the organization and isn't even an engineer. And as long as they bring it in, it's fine. But that's not good enough because we know about adoption, right? If the engineers are all like, you just wasted X amount of money because we're never going to get behind you using this, that's a problem. And this is where positioning helps. Positioning solves problems. It doesn't just like say something in an interesting way. It's there to help solve problems and talking to your market. So we had this real dilemma to deal with. Then in doing a founder interview, love founder interviews. If you don't love interviewing your founder, do it. This is not like an intake call, which I've seen it called. It's not an intake call. This is you sitting down and talking to the founder, like, take me back to what brought you to even think about building it, and then go back and back and back and back to really get to the heart of the problem. So one of the things that the founder, co-founder, Travis said, is engineers love building cool shit. So this came up in an interview that I did with him, just the two of us, one-on-one, and this is a line that he said. So we have this group where they're against us, but we believe fully in them. What do we do? And this little insight is just one of many things that Travis said that proved, we're really behind engineers. Why don't they get that? And that brought us to the positioning statement, engineers build business, which everybody at the organization could buy into, and engineers can now see themselves in the brand. And they believe this is true. Yes, I build business. So it's a way in for those people who are against us, but in need of us. Now, there's the other group. What about unloved and in need of us? So for us, we built Copy School to help everyone get really good at copywriting. So Copyhackers started with ebooks that were meant for startup founders in particular, technical founders, even more specifically technical founders who didn't know how to market themselves or actually put on the page what people needed to see. So we wrote these ebooks to teach them. And then we built out training, and that turned into Copy School, and a bunch of copywriters took it, and marketers, and still startup founders too. But it was really about getting really good at copywriting. As it's grown and as Copyhackers has grown, more and more copywriters have taken Copy School and used it. These copywriters feel invisible in and unloved at organizations. So we did a bunch of interviews, jobs to be done interviews, and other interviews as well. But in one of the interviews we did with an in-house copywriter, we identified that she felt invisible in and unloved at organizations. And the line was something to the effect of, I used to feel like nobody in a room. My whole team is made of PhDs. So there's this sense of being unloved, but in need of us, which was a way in to a conversation there. So after muchos discussion, brainstorming, all of that great stuff, we developed this tagline or this statement that we can put on stickers, put on socks, put on t-shirts, put in different places, that is like insider love for that person who feels unloved, who feels like, gosh, I took a course to get my skills. Other people took 8 years of training. How do I feel confident in a room with them? And then most aware, of course, is a bit of an insider thing for copywriters, right? So most aware plays at different levels, but the idea here is that then we can go take that out, and these are the socks, and this is of course why we're talking about why the email today was about 1,000 pairs of socks. We might need more socks than that. I don't know. But yeah, so the idea here is that we have something else they can buy into. This isn't necessarily a tagline. It's not going to live anywhere that's like at the top of a page or something like that. It's just going to be part of our brand. building that, sending these things out to those people who may have felt unloved so they can see themselves in here. And when they put on a pair of most to wear socks and they walk through their office, and sometimes they feel like inferior or insecure, and then they remember, they know what the hell they're talking about. Like, just because they didn't take 8 years, they took copy school and now they know, they get it. They can feel that confidence, and we can know that Copyhackers helped them get there. So what I want you to think about when you're positioning, one way in, there are other ways in, but one question to ask when you're positioning yourself, your clients, talking about this, just doing it for fun if you like doing that, in your marketer audience, who are the most against you but in need of you, and are they an opportunity then for you to get them on your side by being their voice, or unloved and in need of you? And again, you are going to turn your brand voice into their voice. You are their advocate. You are what they buy into and also buy. So that is today's Tutorial Tuesday, 15 minutes and we're done. Okay, bye everyone. See you next week.
Bye.